All right, this is the Champaign Room live. I'm Illini Isaac of the Champaign Room with Robby Nardini of the Champaign Room, Armchair Illini, Lock Mamba, all the fun stuff. And we're here to talk about Illinois' loss to UConn, but then also just kind of looking at the season in review, maybe looking forward to the off season. There's obviously been a lot of big portal additions already, so. Yeah, Robby, thanks for joining me today and tell us a little bit about how your weekend was.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Isaac. Unfortunately, no more Illinois basketball, and unfortunately, college basketball is coming to an end tonight after the national championship game. But the weekend was good, other than the loss. Made it down to Indianapolis. Loved how much orange was there. Was at the Slippery Noodle before the game, and it pretty much was an Illinois bar. I think everyone in that bar was Illinois people, which was awesome. There's a couple U of A chants, and the ILL chants definitely trumped those pretty easily. And, Easter weekend, got to spend some time with the family and complain about Illinois hoops with them too. So overall, pretty good weekend.
Yeah, what was your reaction? There's been a lot of talk about the being played in a football stadium. Atmosphere wise, view, like what's your take on all that?
Yeah, it was my first time actually going to the game. I did go to the Final Four in Minneapolis. We were actually playing in the manager game, so we went up there and got to experience kind of the Fan Fest. I think that was 2019 it was. After this week, I want to go to every Final Four now. Maybe it's just because Illinois was in it, but just the vibes there, the Fan Fest, the different events they have going on in the city were awesome. And if you're a hoops person, it's a great experience. I think I was actually pleasantly surprised by the football stadium. I know I've seen a lot of complaints about not being able to see in the 600 level. I think that's totally valid. I was fortunate enough to be in the 100 level, so my seats were pretty good, and it just felt like it was a bigger event. I think if you play it in a basketball stadium, maybe it's just like not as big of an event. It's kind of just another game or so. It's tough because maybe 80,000 is a little bit too much, but I also think 20,000 like NBA Arena would be too low. You almost need like an in-between, because if it was 20,000, a lot of people wouldn't be able to go and experience this. At least you can go in the 600 level if you want to, pay a few $100 and go to the game. It is a little bit harder for the environment to get loud, compared to a State Farm Center that's 15,000 people. And so there's pros and cons to both. I do think in the end, it's good to have it in the football stadium. More people can go. It feels like more of an event. You're on a raised floor, and Lucas Oil is pretty sweet too. That was my first time there. I definitely had a great experience. I already want to go back to another Final Four game, I'll be honest.
Yeah, I was in the 400 level, so definitely could have been worse. And it wasn't as bad. I was kind of in the corner. It wasn't as bad when they were scoring, when Illinois was going in the second half towards the UConn fans, like towards the UConn student section.
Yeah.
Then, or maybe that was flip-flop, whatever it was. Whatever they were coming towards the UConn side, it was easier for me to see things. But then, in the first half, when Merck had a few blocks on Terrace Reed and there was a cluster of Stojakovic and Tommy and Merck all trying to put the ball back in after it somehow hung on the rim, it was kind of hard to tell who was who. Yeah. But still, yeah, the atmosphere was amazing. I mean, if we would have won in 70% of that stadium was orange, and we would have been able to celebrate that after, it would have been just so memorable. Like before the game was amazing, but obviously, yeah, Illinois fans showed out only a couple hours away, but yeah, it was not cheap. And I agree, it'd be exciting if there was like an in between, like a 30 to 40,000 seater or whatever. But again, the more you limit the seats, the more expensive things get. So I know, like tonight, there was tickets for like $100, or I don't know, if you wanted to sit up, it wasn't bad. But so it has been what, 3 days, 2 days, 48 hours about from the game. So give me your thoughts on how the game went and why you think it went the way it did.
Yeah, I'm still sad that we lost. Going into it, I was like, okay, we're in the Final Four. We lose a close game, I won't be that sad. But I just feel like we could win that game. Could be playing the national championship. Like I said on our last live together, I think Michigan, Arizona will take it either way. And especially after watching Michigan play Arizona, I think they're going to run away with it tonight too. So either you lose in the semis or you play Michigan. At least you get a shot. Maybe you get blown out by Michigan again, which would suck, but at least you get a shot. I am still sad. I do think Illinois could have won that game. I do think they were the better team. They just could not make a shot. I felt like there was a lid on the rim the entire game. And even in the tournament, we didn't shoot all that well, and we still were able to win. But you play a team like UConn, and there just felt like all our points were so tough, and they had an answer for every single play. We cut it to 6 and Kylan fouls, or a missed 3 turned into and 1 for UConn. I feel like they just took advantage of all the little things that we did, and we didn't really reciprocate that. And just a bounce here or there, it could be a different game. I think that 9-point win is a little bit more than that game actually was. Similar to how the Illinois-Michigan game was. We lost by a lot more points, it felt like, than 14. But this game, I feel like it was there was a 2-possession game, down the line, when the clock was with 4 or 3 minutes left. So we definitely had a chance to win. Those little bounces here and there. We had a couple dumb fouls, just a rebound, I think, at the end of the game when we were up 4. Those little things just did not go our way. And we just can't beat UConn, apparently. And I'm tired of playing them. Unfortunately, we have to play them again at the United Center next year. And, of course, I'll be there being in Chicago. But it just sucks having to play UConn and losing again, I'll be honest.
Yeah, I forget. It might have been Borzello that put this out, but it was like Illinois' 3 worst offensive performances the last 3 seasons have been the 3 games against UConn. They've held you under 65 each time or something like that. Mm-hmm. And it definitely felt like UConn was good. They weren't, and obviously they're great. They're in the national title game, and their program's amazing. But it felt more, like you said, the Michigan game felt like we were lucky to lose by 14 or whatever. This game felt like 9 was dramatic. Now, UConn kept us at arm's length the whole time, like a good team does that knows how to win in close games. But it really felt like, man, if we just get this bounce. Or one play that I go back to that hasn't been talked about as much was, I think we were down 4 still late, or maybe we were down 6 to go down 8. But we shoot the ball, miss, of course, like a lot of our shots. And then Tommy saved it on our end from going out of bounds. It went perfectly to Demery or Ball, and then he passed it up. And I forget who dunked it. It might have been Ball. But
yeah.
It was just like the worst case scenario. Like Tommy couldn't have thrown it any worse to where none of our guys were back, and it was just like an easy transition dunk. And it felt like that's kind of how it was all night. Now, again, give UConn credit. They took advantage of their 3 ball, and they hit the open ones that you gave them, and Illinois didn't. Like that really felt like the difference. Like there's a lot of things you can break down from this game, but it really feels like they hit 12 threes and you hit 5 or 6, and 1 or 2 of your threes at the end were when the game was kind of out of reach in the big picture of things. But so follow-up question to that, how much of it do you think was this is UConn, their game plan was obviously great, and how much do you think it was really just Illinois missing shots, maybe jitters, things like that?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. I do think experience prevailed in both of the games. Arizona and Illinois haven't been to a Final Four in a while, and UConn and I guess Dusty May, not necessarily Michigan, has been to a Final Four. I feel like that played a huge part, especially in the beginning of the game. I felt like we came out with some nervous energy, which is kind of expected for a Final Four, and they were just ready to roll. So their game plan was great. I think, their defense doesn't really play to our advantage. They like to get teams in isolations, and they play one-on-one defense really, really well, and we just couldn't beat them one-on-one at the end of the day. And a lot of our shots were in and out. We couldn't make a 3 to save our lives. And Solo Ball's a 29% 3-point shooter, and just looking at it now, he went 3 for 7. I mean, there was a couple occasions where he's coming off curl screens and making contested threes. And there's just so many examples of, we do this one little thing better and maybe you win the game. We were up 22-21 when Andre missed a free throw, and then they went on a run. I mean, I could keep naming them for the whole night, but their game plan was great. Dan Hurley's an amazing coach. I think just the way the game was officiated too, they were kind of getting real ticky-tack in the second half, and that doesn't play to our advantage considering not fouling is one of our best defensive, attributes. So not going to blame the refs for the game whatsoever, but I don't think that helped either. And just all these things did not go our way. And their game plan at the end of the day was great. They they made their shots, and we could definitely not make a shot to save our life. Even so, UConn went on a lot of runs, or I guess scoring droughts, I should say, and we just could not take advantage at all. And I really think that was just the game at the end of the day. We couldn't take advantage of when they went on a scoring drought, and it felt like they always took advantage of our mistakes.
Crazy that if you would have asked me or if you would have said, hey, you're going to lose the UConn by 9, I probably would have thought like, oh, you lost 85-76 because you couldn't get a stop on them. And it's like, no, actually your defense played pretty well, and defense gave you a ton of chances to win that game. Mm-hmm. And the only reason they won by 9 was because he had to foul them late, and they just wouldn't admit. Like Terrace Reed, didn't he go 4 for 4 or something? He's like a 56% free throw shooter. We went 5 for 5. Yeah. So
15 for 17, and we went. I mean, we did better than I thought, but it felt like we were missing free throws. I mean, that's what
it was like when we missed them that it felt worse. And I think Andre missed 3 in the first half. One of them was a 1-and-1. But I've seen both sides of things, and I would tend to lean more when I was at the game and watching it. It didn't feel like, man, Brad's getting out coached or the staff's getting out schemed. Like when we played UConn a few years ago, yes, they were definitely the better team, but everybody knew a few minutes into that game, it's like, okay, stop trying to drive at Caravan. Like Terrence is not going to be able to get him in foul trouble and shoot over him. Like stop. And it's like they kept doing that. And then Coleman kept guarding Caravan or Sonogo or whatever one-on-one.
Klingen, yeah.
And Klingen, yeah. And it's like Klingen, sorry, yeah, that's what I meant. But yeah, I didn't feel like that this game. It felt like if you hit some more shots or just don't have as many dumb turnovers, you easily are in the game and you win the game. And then nobody's talking about, oh, Brad coaching this. Like, how much of it do you think was Hurley kind of out coaching Brad, and how much of it was just, I don't know what you would have done differently?
Yeah, I think the staff did what they needed to do to win this game. In my honest opinion, you know, at the end of the day, if you lose, I don't think people realize this. If you lose, like you probably get outcoached a little bit. You know, their game plan was slightly better. They did this a little bit better, you know, so it's not crazy to say, okay, Dan Hurley outcoached Brad Underwood a little bit, but I don't think it was drastic enough where it decided the game. I think that we did exactly what we wanted to do. We kept them away from the rim. We made them shoot threes over us, and our defense was great. I know that was going to be a focus for them pretty much the entire week leading up to UConn. And if you look at it, you know, we kept with them on rebounds. We didn't let Reed go absolutely crazy. And I think we executed the game plan pretty well. But at the end of the day in basketball, if you don't make shots or, you know, you don't force your opponent to miss more shots than you, you know, Solo Ball, 29% shooter, Mullins, 32% shooter. They both got going from the 3-point line. I think that was the game at the end of the day. I don't think it was anything like, oh, Brad Underwood got out coached by Dan Hurley. That's the game right there. I do think their experience and Dan Hurley's just ability to never lose in the NCAA tournament definitely played a part in this game, but I wouldn't say it's drastic whatsoever.
That was something I tweeted. Being at the game and just watching UConn and how they were able to, they went up, you know, 8 or 9 and never let it back. Like, it's hard to pinpoint why experience matters, like why March experience matters, but everybody you talk to that's been in the tournament, coached in the tournament, whatever, they all say how much it matters. And it really did feel like that was a good example. It's hard to pinpoint, but again, UConn hit every big shot they needed to. They didn't turn it over very much. They hit their free throws. And obviously those are things that you try to do every game, no matter what, but they never looked, you know, nervous or out of control, and they were still just running their sets. And even like when they couldn't score for a few minutes, it didn't look like, oh my gosh, they're trying to force things or anything. It really did feel like they knew if we play our game, we're going to, you know, keep this lead. And again, even if Brad did get, or the staff got a little bit out coached, it's like you got out coached by Danny Hurley, who out coaches everyone every game pretty much. I mean, yeah, he's 18-1 now the last 4 years in the tournament. And the one loss was to Florida last year by 2. So who won the national title? Let's see. I want to hit on like this game a little bit more. I know it's like, again, at the end of the day, maybe just hit some shots, but who do you think was the X factor of that game and why we weren't able to pull it off? Because it felt like nobody really stood out. But who do you think was kind of the key cog that didn't play well enough for us to win?
Well, I think Reed got going a bit early. I think he was abusing Z a little bit down low. It was almost like he couldn't play Z. At least in my opinion, I was watching him kind of get abused by Reed, and I was like, all right, you got to take him out. And I felt like they just made it so there was so much focus on Reed, and Tommy had to come in and really be a physical and play more physical defense than he's used to, which everyone knew. I mean, Reed only shot 6 for 12, but he had 11 rebounds, had 17 points. I think there was a huge focus on him. And then all of a sudden, Mullins and Ball, I think, were huge making their shots because, like I said, Ball's a 29% shooter, and he made 3 threes. Mullins made 4 threes. We did a good job on Caravan, which I was a little bit surprised about. I thought he'd get going a little bit too. I just think, which UConn's done every single game, Reed is just such a focal point for their offense, and he's so physical. Had 11 rebounds, and I think that just forced us to have so much attention on him. We started doubling him a little bit in the second half, and that just opened up for everyone else on UConn. And I don't know, our guys just didn't play up to their standard. Keaton 2 for 10, Kylan 1 for 6. I mean, your senior guard's going 1 for 6, and he's a program legend. I don't want to, bash him too much, but he didn't have a good game. Keaton was struggling a little bit, even though he had 17 points. He started to force it a little bit towards the end on offense too, with pull-up threes, and as you can see, he ended up with 2 for 10 from 3. So combination of those things, I think, being a little bit more physical on Reed, that would have been huge. And that was just a bad matchup for our bigs, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think Z only played like 6 or 8 minutes or something, which was,
yeah.
I mean, not that he plays a ton, but that was still low for even him. And it's so hard too, because I know people were saying on the broadcast and other fans were like, oh my gosh, they have no offense. All they do is just, ISO ball with Keaton or let Andre. And it's like, yeah, well, 9 times out of 10, that works great. And we still had so many looks at the rim where it could have worked. And Keaton is such a good 3-point shooter overall this season. Yes, he forced a few of them. There was a few I'm like, that was dumb. But you would expect him to at least make 3 out of 10 or 4 out of 10 of those, I mean, the one he had in the first half, I think when you were up 22-21, and I was up so high and at a weird angle, I thought it went in, but he airballed it by like 10 feet when I saw the replay. Yeah. Again, awesome season. And the thing I really liked was that I felt like there was a chance for UConn to run away with it. I was like, oh my gosh, once it comes to late free throws and stuff, you're going to lose by 19 or 20. And they went up 14, I think, at one point. And then you fought back, obviously, and got it to within 4, 2 or 3 times. So I think there's a world where a team like last year's team, or a team that wasn't as tough mentally, would have gotten blown out. So I was definitely happy with that. But so looking back on it, you make the Final Four, obviously. 28-8 was your final record?
28-9, yeah.
And amazing season, obviously. What are your thoughts on the season as a whole, and what grade would you give it?
Well, it was amazing. You made the Final Four. You've done something that Illinois hasn't done in 21 years. So it's hard not to give this team an A, in my opinion. I think it's the fourth best win total in Illinois history. I think the Elite Eight team had 29, and then Final Illini in 2005 had more wins. So you're looking at the 4th best win total in Illinois history, which is crazy to think about. And just make it to the Final Four. Obviously, we want to win a national championship, but a Final Four is kind of just the mecca of college hoops. Like I said before, you get there, and if you're one of those coaches on that team, you're kind of highly regarded. Your team's in the Final Four. Everyone else is going to events and getting drunk and doing stupid things, going to parties all weekend, while Brad Underwood's grinding and all that staff is trying to win a national championship. So I think I'll give it an A. I think some UCLA losing Wisconsin twice, I think maybe I would give it an A+ if we, didn't get swept by Wisconsin, or maybe not blow a lead to UCLA. But, if you gave it an A+, I got no problem with that. You go to the Final Four as a number 3 seed. You pretty much dominated throughout the entire NCAA tournament, besides running into UConn, who has pretty much dominated the entire 21st century. So overall an A, I think. Close to an A plus, but I'll go ahead and give it an 8. Just Final Four, one of the best seasons of all time.
Yeah, I mean, 3/4 of the way through the season, I would have thought it's probably not going to be an A, but which is so crazy about March because it's a few games and it can literally determine the value of your season and how great fans feel about it. Because going into the tournament, fans were super down on it. I was down on this team. I thought Sweet 16 was probably the best, and then they were. You got Houston, and you played really tough, and your defense played the best it played all year. So yeah, it's hard to not give it an A. I think the only thing that would have made it better, obviously, is if you would have got a few more of those close games. But again, then that maybe messes up your seeding. Maybe end up like Purdue, and you're playing Arizona to get to the Final Four. But yeah, it's hard to not give this an. I mean, it has to be an A for Illinois getting to the first Final Four in 21 years, and I was thinking about this yesterday. Like, I don't want to hear any more Illinois fans talking about the unluckiness of Loyola and stuff because, yes, that's unfortunate. That team was probably like the most likely to win a national title, but you've gotten 2 really good draws, and really last year's draw wasn't that bad either. So I think we've almost evened out the Loyola and the Houston draws from a few years ago, and hopefully, but I mean, I'll take it next year. Let's get an overseeded team. But so how do they get back to this point? How do they obviously getting to the Final Four? There's some luck involved, and guys not getting injured, things like that. So what do you think? What do you think is most important? How do you get back to the Final Four in Detroit next year? Actually,
Yeah, I would love to go to Detroit next year. I'm already campaigning for a Detroit 2027 trip. I think retention is the most important thing. You saw it last year, get some guys back, and that goes a long way. I really think, a lot of teams in the Final Four the past 3-4 seasons, besides, this Michigan team who's pretty much all transfers, a lot of them have 50% of their minutes back or, at least 45 of their minutes back. I think we had around 45 coming into this season. So I think the number one priority is just get all your guys back. That's hard to do in this era of college basketball. So I wouldn't count on all the guys back, but you try to get the 5 core guys back. So it's Tommy, Z, Andre, Jake, and Merck, of course. I think getting those 5 guys back would be huge. And you got some pretty good freshmen coming in. Quentin Coleman's really, really good. I could see him starting and being a great player on Illinois year 1, kind of step into that Keaton role. So, yeah, I think retention is number one thing. They do a good job at finding talent. They do a really good job at developing talent. So it'll be interesting to see, if Petrovic or Lee comes back. But I would be comfortable with either of those guys, kind of playing a backup type role. And then maybe a big splash in the transfer portal. Before today, I really didn't think, they would make a huge splash. But now that Blackwell's in the portal, I think that's potential. He's going to kind of require a ton of money, unfortunately. So we might not be able to compete with Duke in that department. But yeah, bringing your guys back is huge. I think taking, a slightly worse, maybe like, let's say Jake Davis is slightly worse than a transfer guy that you could get. I think it's worth, keeping Jake. Obviously he's been with the program. Fans like to see a guy that, stays for 3-4 years in the program, and just knowing the system, being around the whole summer. A lot of these year 2, year 3 transfers, that's when you see them have really big seasons and kind of take their skill and their game to the next level. So that's the number one thing for me. Of course, get a couple guys in the portal, spend some money in this area. I think that's the number one thing going into the off season. And unfortunately, we have to wait until November for another game. But we got transfer portal news in April. May we'll take a little break and then back at it in June for workouts. So it's not that big of an off season.
I know this is probably a good topic for the summer. Like, how hypothetical, how much NIL would they have cost? But thinking about if, say, Kofi was still here in this era of college basketball a few years after he was in college, because obviously he had another year eligibility. Say Kofi was in this transfer portal class. How much do you think you probably saw numbers for Blackwell today? Who knows if that's accurate, 4 million or 5 million or whatever. I don't know about. But if Kofi was transferring right now, how much do you think he would demand?
Yeah, I think a lot of those numbers are always inflated. Blackwell 5 mil. I kind of doubt that he'll get 5 mil. If he needs it, hopefully we pay it, whatever it takes to get him, of course. But I think those numbers are a little inflated. I would say Kofi probably around 3 mil, 4 mil. For him, I think Flory from Kansas, the center, is also trying to get 5 mil. We'll see. It's hard to say year to year, but um, yeah, Kofi would definitely get paid, and that's for sure. The big guy market, I think people overpay for big guys. So I would probably say 3 mil. You can maybe argue a little bit more considering he's an All American, but I think those numbers are a little inflated at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. Nobody's, and there's like no, it's the Wild West. There's nobody out there to say if somebody throwing out a random number is right or
Yeah.
wrong or whatever. But so you talked about different priority lists, or you talked about, trying to get your core five back. If you had to rank 1 through 5, real quick, I'll start with this. I think the great thing about the portal, which sucks because you have guys transfer, I love Kylan. Like, I'm not trying to dog on Kylan whatsoever. But the fact of the matter is that if you're not like a Terrence Shannon level player, you can be replaced in the portal. So like if you're a second, third, or honorable mention Big Ten guy, like there's other guys in the portal that can come in. So I bring up Kylan because obviously he's one of the guys that for sure can't come back. I think a guy like Kylan, a role player guy like Ben Rickhouse, those are guys you can get in the portal. Now, if you were losing like a Merck, I would be a little bit more worried because they're more unique. Like you said, bigger guys are so valuable in the portal. So I think that gives me hope of getting like a Blackwell or something, because I think you can upgrade that guard position, and then still I think you can be better next year. As good as you were this year, obviously you're not going to get a Keaton Wagler, but you have NIL to replace Keaton, Kylan, and Ben. Tell me your top five guys we need to bring back.
Yeah, I got you. I would say Merck number one for me. I think that's a popular opinion. He's just so versatile as a power forward, 6'9". The beginning of the season, he wasn't, super utilized. He was still kind of getting feelers out for college basketball, and I think next year he could take a huge step, being more of a point forward, facilitating more, and just another year, like he said himself, another summer. It's dangerous for him. I would go Merck number one, and I think Andre number two. He had his ups and downs this season. We paid him a lot of money. He can score with the best of them. If he can improve his shot a little bit more too, I think he's got NBA potential. He's really improved in the defensive end. So just having a guy like him, like, an athlete, a guy that can get to the rim and score, along with Merck, I think those two guys you got to prioritize. And I guess Tommy and Z, I guess I would go 3 and 4. I guess Tommy 3, Z 4. That might be a package deal here. So hard to rank them, but just having 2 7-footers, another year in the system, another summer with Fletch. Our front court's really good. I think you have a Z and a Tommy and a Merck. You have one of the best front courts in the entire college basketball. I know some of these matchups like Reed and Michigan, people might say they're a little bit soft or not strong enough, but at the end of the day, they dominated a lot of people all season long, especially when they start making threes. Tommy didn't have, his best shooting performances or just offensive performances this season, but I think he could really be good next year. And same with Z. And then Jake Davis, number 5. Last but not least, I think he's an amazing 3-point shooter. Another year just in high major D1 basketball could go a long way for him. And I like his swagger too. He's confident. He is easygoing. He does a lot for this team other than just make shots. And another year with him, I think he's a 40% 3-point shooter. Those players go for a lot of money in this day and age of college basketball. He just opens up so much for the offense, and he'll play even more than he did this year, which I really want him back, even though he's number 5. I think he's huge. If you can get all 5 of those guys back, plus you got Quentin Coleman coming in as a freshman. He's a great, I think he's like ranked 35 or something. He can shoot 6'3", 6'4" guard, another scorer that you can place in the lineup. And I think that team will be maybe just as good as this year. And if you get a Blackwell, I think you're looking at, definitely a possibility to go back to another Final Four.
Yeah, I would not disagree really with any of those. And a guy like Jake is it's so hard to find the guys that aren't going to mess with the locker room. I think it's easy to be like, hey, we have an extra couple million. Let's go get a solid 6th or 7th guy. But it's like, is he going to click with everybody else? And a guy like Jake Davis, you're like, you know what you're going to get. You're not going to get the problems, things like that. Yeah, it'll be interesting. You should bring a lot of guys back, and having that continuity will be huge. And it is crazy too. You went to the Final Four, and Tommy was probably worse this year than he was last year overall. Now injuries and things, but yeah, you would hope for another year in the system, another year with Fletch, and yeah, I'd love to have Big Z back. I think he can only get better and only get more consistent, and there's no way he can shoot the 3 ball worse than he finished the year shooting. So yeah. He's a better shooter than he finished the year.
Sure.
What was your highlight of the season? Like a moment you'll always remember outside of the Final Four run? Because obviously we don't get many of those, but outside of that, what was sort of your highlight moment of the season?
Yeah, I think winning at Purdue was probably the highlight. I think all just the road wins were highlights for me. I might have said it before, but just the amount of times this team won on the road. Like it was the record, I guess, most road wins since 2005, I think, at one point. So just being able to go in other teams' buildings and get a win, I think Purdue was awesome. I've been in the Mackey Arena before when I was manager, and I know how hostile it is, so hard it is. Usually how hard it is to win. I know this year a decent amount of teams beat them on their home floor, but just, the Keaton Wallace performance, going to Purdue, I think after that game, it was really like, okay, this team is actually really legit, not just, a top 4 team in the Big Ten. They maybe have a chance to go to the Final Four, which they end up doing. And Keaton's performance is just one of the best performances you'll ever see in the history of college basketball, not even in the history of Illinois hoops. As a freshman going into Purdue and putting up 46 points, I mean, people are going to look back at that performance and say it's the best performance as a freshman, maybe of all time, and especially in Illinois. So that was the highlight for me. And, just all the road wins in general, too, going to Nebraska and winning that game, too, shortly after. Just their ability to go into different environments, and nothing really fazed them at all this season, which was awesome.
So we've touched on a guard potentially getting like a Blackwell or something, which is so funny because if you go back, 2 years ago, I want to say, everybody was all in on Storr. Much different player, but there's always a few guys that are the big names in the portal, and it's like, oh, Illinois is in on them, like we have a good chance, which we definitely probably do, and I'm sure there's a lot of people behind the scenes that are like, hey, we have an in for Blackwell and stuff like that. But it is funny looking back and thinking like, Josh Dix, I think that went to Creighton, right? Like everybody thought we were getting him, and some of those turn out for the better, and some of them don't. But it is always funny. Like, I hope we get Blackwell, but I could see a year from now he's playing at Duke or Alabama or whatever, and you're like, hey, remember we thought we were getting that guy.
Yeah,
but
sometimes the I guess the money just outweighs the benefits. I don't think the staff does a good job of not overpaying. Sarr would have been great. He was another name that we could have gotten, but you really want to pay him over Andre? I don't think so. And same with Dix, that worked out well in our favor. And obviously there's examples where it doesn't work out, but they do a good job of, trying to find someone that fits the team, not overpaying. And I'm sure Blackwell is going to get a ton of money from Duke and other blue bloods. So, not the end of the world if you don't get him. It's still very early in the cycle, but of course he would be awesome. So, I hope we do, but there's a lot of fish that we can fish in the ocean that we can kind of pick at here.
Yeah. The thing about Andre is, honestly, I wouldn't, for a guy like that and a guy like Blackwell, right? It's like, if you're not going to be a first round pick and odds are kind of going against you at the moment of even getting drafted and having a strong NBA career, it's like any financial advisor out there would be like, yeah, transfer and make the most money wherever you can. If you're for sure not going to be an NBA star, like go get the most, like, yeah, it stinks, but I also understand it. Even if Andre did leave, I hope he comes back. I think he could be amazing. We've seen year 2 guys in Underwood's program, Terrence Shannon, Kylan Boswell. I'm sure Ben got insanely better at defense this year. There's just one of those many examples. But going into next season, obviously there was a ton of highs this year. We had some flaws. We had, the streak where we lost 5-9 or whatever to end the season. What's the main thing you want to see fixed or improved upon for next year?
Yeah, that's a good question. I do think like losing 5 of 6, the schedule plays a lot of part in that. I think, Big Ten, Big 12, they really like back ended their schedules. So, our winning streak, there was not many tough games, and all of a sudden you have to play a tough game plus injuries. So I was obviously a little worried going to the NCAA tournament, but also our schedule just like heated up so much too, and injuries were bad timing, etc. So that all plays a part. I guess just consistency overall plays a part too. I guess I would like to see improve and just like wins against top tier talent. I know we beat Purdue and we beat Nebraska. They ended up being 2 and 4 seeds. So I guess what I'm trying to say is when we play someone at home that's really really good. I know we beat Texas Tech. I know we lost to Michigan, who was really good. I said it before this season too. Just that home court advantage, I would love to take the next step, like an Iowa State or someone else that's really good at home. Just be like 15-1 at home, or like whatever it is, like 18-1 at home, or 0 losses. I feel like we've had like 3 or 4 losses at home every single year under Brad Underwood, and we've had some really really good wins on neutral sites and road wins, but just that home environment. Let's get State Farm Center popping. Let's have the Orange Crush like it used to be, and let's just not lose at home. Because if you don't lose at home, and you're already starting the season off with like 20 wins because you play more than half your games at home and take care of business at 10 of the Big Ten games, you're already automatically in the tournament if you win all your home games. So I guess that's one thing I want to improve. I think that just goes along with consistency. There's a lot of highs and lows, I feel like, in college basketball, but Illinois, I feel like, just has so many like highs and lows throughout the season, and love to just be a little bit more consistent throughout the season.
Yeah, and this season was arguably your most consistent. I know you went on the losing streak, but you didn't lose to any bad teams.
Yeah.
Like your lows they felt painful because of how you lost them, but they weren't as low as losing to a 500 Maryland team or below 500 stuff like that. Like I do agree though. There were times, and I think that happens a lot when you go with younger guys, when you have freshmen as your stars. It can vary. And just a couple more questions for you, but just wanted to hit on this one from Wayne. Do you think there's another high school player that they're looking to sign for next year? I pulled up this. So we already have Lucas Murillo, Ethan Brown, and Landon Davis signed, which Murillo I know they're super high on. He's the 59th ranked recruit. So we have guys coming in. And yeah, they continue to hit the high school ranks pretty hard. But I don't know, Robby, if you've have any experience looking into any of these guys. But I've tended to get away from focusing on high school recruiting, because the portal and things and those types of guys seem to matter more. But what are your thoughts on these guys?
Yeah, I spent a lot of time looking at high school guys. I like the UIBL and Peach Jam and, just AAU circuits. I went to the Under Armour last year. I think I might go to a session for UIBL this year. But, Morello's great. People are pretty high on Ethan Brown. Obviously, Quentin Coleman's amazing. I think Landon will be more of a project type. He's a 3-star. So is Keaton. So you never know. But I think he'll be more of a project. I know we've been on Luigi, the big center from Italy. I think there's a chance, maybe if Z or Tommy leaves, we could try to get him. But I think with 4 freshmen, you're pretty good on, young guys, especially if you got 5 guys coming back or 4 guys. That's already 8 guys in the rotation. But Landon probably won't be in the rotation. Ethan Brown would have to fight for minutes too. So I would say we're probably pretty set on high school guys. I know maybe Mingo is going to North Carolina, and obviously Hubert Davis got fired, and they're hiring Mike Malone. So, maybe someone like him who we've had ties to before would, get back on the market, and we can go after someone like that. But with 4 freshmen, I'm all for taking freshmen, but at the end of the day, you can't have a million freshmen in this era of college basketball, especially with all the upperclassmen we have coming back, and, a couple transfers we're going to get. So I think we're pretty set in freshmen, to answer your question. Maybe try to dabble into one more if we need to, if one of our big guys leaves. But I think we're pretty set where we're at.
Going more big picture, I think Illinois is obviously the last 7 years has the most Big Ten wins, last 8 years in the conference. So hopefully that keeps up. That's definitely something you can't knock on Brad for people that are still trying to find things to get upset with him about. But moving forward in the Big Ten, and you're obviously a basketball guy, what are your thoughts on just the Big Ten as a whole? Like a team that might take a step back, team that might take a step forward. Where's your head at with the rest of the conference?
Well, I think Michigan will always be good with Dusty May now. I know they'll probably have some guys leave, like Mara and obviously Axel. I think Cadeau and Kaysen and McKinney will probably all be back. So they got a pretty good core too. We'll see what Merez wants to do. He could be a first-round pick, maybe a late first-round pick, but he might stay just with the NIL nowadays. So they'll always be good. I think Michigan State will be really good next year, obviously with Tom Izzo still. As long as he's there, they'll be good. And they've been slept on the past few seasons too. So they'll have Fears back. They have a couple freshmen that are good. And I think Kohler and Cooper are graduating, but they still got Carr. So a couple starters coming back. I think those three teams will probably be the best as of right now for me going into next season. We'll see what UCLA wants to do. I don't think anyone, I guess Purdue too, you always got to keep them in mind with Matt Painter. But TKR, Fletcher Lawyer, and Braden Smith are all gone. So it's a new era. They got Omar Meyer coming back, he announced today. So, they'll be solid. They'll make the tournament, of course, but I don't see them being better than us. And I guess some teams that I just feel like aren't that good is Ohio State. They still have Diebler as the coach. He was good this year as a 8 or 9 seed that they got, but I just can't see them taking the next step. We'll see who comes back for them. And just those West Coast teams haven't really impressed recently, so I'm not too worried about them. I really think Illinois is in the driver's seat to challenge Michigan for a Big Ten title again next season.
Yeah, the first thing I thought of was Purdue because those guys have been there forever, so it's hard to even imagine what they're going to look like.
Yeah,
and maybe they have another 7'3" guy or whatever coming in too, and they'll get a point guard from the backwoods of Indiana or something, but that'll be super interesting. I'm sure Painter will figure it out. Iowa, I think if McCollum gets some legit D1 players, and that's no slight against those guys. They obviously went to an Elite Eight, but he's got way more budget now. He just committed and said he was staying at Iowa. Apparently he talked to UNC, but was like, no, I want to stay at Iowa. Who knows what's actually true, but they could be a wagon, which I don't love. And
yeah, they'll be good for sure. Forgot about McCollum.
Yeah,
he's amazing. They'll definitely be good for years to come.
It was 18 teams now, so it's easy to
hard to go through them all.
Yeah,
Nebraska, we'll see. It's impossible.
Nebraska's going to be completely different. And then is Indiana ever going to figure it out? I think DeVries. It's like, okay, you get a first year. Nowadays, some coaches do flip it in 1 year, but they didn't completely flip it and make the tournament. But now that he's been there for another year, I'm sure their budget's going to be stupid high. Yeah, it should be an interesting run. There's going to be a lot of change, a lot of turnover. I would be surprised. I like Sprinkle at Washington. I was surprised how bad they were. They had a lot of injuries and stuff. And then I think Minnesota, Nico Medved, right?
Yep.
I think I watched them play in the Crown the other night and they lost. But they, with the limited resources and stuff they had, and they were still able to get up for some big games this year. I mean, they played us really tough. I think being there, implementing, and he's from Colorado State, knows how to win at the lower levels. A lot of those coaches are interesting that have won at the lower levels. And it's like, okay, now you give them Big Ten resources and money. And I know Minnesota's not crazy resources, but yeah, the Big Ten's gonna be super fun next year, and there's gonna be a lot of change. And I mean, Illinois has got to have. I don't know who would have more returning core than Illinois. If our core comes back, that can come back. I don't know who would have more returners than us. I'm trying to think.
Yeah, I can't think of anyone right now. But to your point, Nico and McCollum are great. I think they'll be good. Minnesota's a little bit tougher, I would say, but two really good coaches. I think they could both make the tournament for sure. Indiana's a football school now, so we'll see if they can make the tournament. But I mean, if you don't make a tournament in Indiana, you're not doing your job. So I'd obviously give DeVries a couple more years, maybe 2 or 3 years. But if you don't start making the tournament in Indiana, you're going to be gone pretty quick.
Yeah, and who knows about Wisconsin? I'm sure they'll bring in a guard and then have, a few tall white guys again that can shoot. Real quick, your thoughts on tonight's game, Michigan, UConn. Obviously, you beat Illinois. And Michigan, I was excited because even after Illinois lost, I was kind of like, yeah, this sucks. I'm about to watch one of the best games of the Big Ten season or of the college basketball season. And then Michigan just runs them out of the gym. It got barely close in the first half. I think Arizona cut it to like 7 or 8. And then Michigan just blew them out. And that stadium emptied out when Elliot Cadeau hit a three in the second half to go up 27 with like 12 minutes left. That was nuts. So what are your thoughts on tonight's game? How do you see it playing out?
Yeah, I was cheering for Arizona in that Michigan game. It sucked because 3 Michigan fans were in front of me, and they were just the nicest guys in the world. They were cheering so hard for Illinois, and I'm like, "You're making me look bad, man. Like, I don't want your team to win. I hate Michigan." But they were really nice, so it's hard to publicly cheer for Arizona. I think Michigan blows them out tonight, honestly. I think that they're just one of the best teams of all time. They just beat Arizona by 1,000,000 points, and I just don't think UConn has the horses to keep up with Michigan. I know Yaxel's a little bit banged up, but I think Michigan just gets outs and runs. UConn can't slow him down enough. And Mara is just an absolute beast. He can pass, he can move. Cadeau is literally missing on purpose just so Mara can dunk the ball. I think this team is generational. And I think the spread's like 7.5. I think Michigan wins by double digits. And maybe it's a little bit of a game, but I think Michigan takes it easily in the Big Ten. Finally ends the drought, and Perez Johnson Jr. is a national champion.
Yeah, if it was anybody else and not UConn, I would agree, and I still tend to lean that way. But just Hurley's record in the tournament, and yeah, man, they just play above their talent level, and they're still super talented. But yeah, if I had to put money on it, which I'm gonna put Michigan to cover. It is crazy too, because growing up in Michigan, being an Illinois fan, I've been a Michigan hater like my whole life. But just UConn fans at the game and just in Indianapolis, and then UConn fans on social media, I'm like, man, I'm kind of sick of these guys. Like, I'm okay with them
Can
losing.
both teams lose?
Yeah. So unfortunately, they can't tie. But well, Robby, this has been awesome. Went for easily over 40 minutes, and it was an awesome season. A lot of memories. The Final Four banner raising, everything's gonna be awesome. Keaton's gonna get himself a banner as well. So yeah, we'll definitely get back on and do some more stuff over the summer and keep up with the portal's gonna be crazy. I'm sure we'll have plenty to talk about here in a week or two with the portal too. So yeah, tell everybody again, you're everywhere, so kind of fill in where you're at.
Yeah. Like John Rothstein says, we sleep in May. I know the season's over, but the portal's a season in itself. So we'll definitely be busy, talking portal and looking forward to the next season for Illinois. Basketball talk doesn't stop just because college hoops is over. So definitely sad the season's coming to an end, but definitely still follow me at Robby Nardini on Twitter, at Lock Mamba on TikTok. Do a couple highlight videos, do a couple other podcasts that I cut and put on there too. So definitely follow me. Feel free to reach out if you want to talk hoops ever. Always looking to do a little bit more in the hoops realm too. This is my first year at the Champaign room and armchairs, kind of in that media space. So kind of slowly growing here and getting more and more responsibilities. So definitely shoot me a follow, and appreciate you having me on, Isaac. It's always great to be on here.
Yeah, no, it's an absolute blast, and I love getting your X's and O's and things like that. So yeah, this is the Champaign Room Live. Alana Isaac, Robby Nardini. We'll definitely be doing some more stuff this offseason. Thanks for everybody who tuned in and everybody who tuned in and has kept up with our content all hoop season. So Final Four, amazing season. Love this team. And hopefully everybody comes back. ILL.
I know, baby.